Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of Monday Night Raw for November the 16th, 2020. We have Survivor Series this coming Sunday, which is my birthday. And by the way, there will be a special sale starting this Sunday, 22% off. November 22nd will be the start date. You could pick up NoDQ.com merchandise over at NoDQ.com/merch. You can pick up this No DQ mug. Everything 22% off starting Sunday using the code SURVIVOR. But that starts Sunday. Let's get to the recap here. Big show tonight. The highly advertised WWE Championship match. We had Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, the champion. We kicked off the show with Drew McIntyre. And DJW with a $2 super chat, first one of the evening, says, #predictable. Well, what are you talking about, DJ, specifically? I think you're talking about the main event maybe, but there were some things on this show predictable. Some, I think, were maybe not as predictable, but let's go ahead and talk about it. And as Jeff Meacham says, shout out to good old JM, make sure you follow the Jeff Meacham Network. He says, #stay on topic. It's stick to the topic, but close enough, Jeff. Drew came out. We had a recap from Smackdown where McIntyre appeared and confronted Roman Reigns. And he talked about Survivor Series going hand in hand with Thanksgiving and how it's a time where people are thankful. He said he's thankful for his family, friends, fans, the Thunderdome. He talked about people that have doubted him that he could win back the title and challenge Reigns. He talked about Reigns. He talked about how he is going to humble the head of the table at Survivor Series after he beats Randy Orton. Orton appeared on the big screen and said that he is thankful for being a 14-time world champ. And he said that he's been fined and suspended more times than anybody else. Yet it never fazed him because he is the greatest wrestler ever. And he's there for a reason. He has overcome all the fines and suspensions. And he said that he will prove again that he is the greatest when he beats Drew, and said that he will go on to face Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. Drew responded by saying that his foot will come crashing through Orton's head. We had The Miz interrupt this promo, and he talked about, of course, him and Morrison were out there teasing a Money in the Bank cash-in and promoting Miz's episode of Miz and Mrs., which I think is on now, but shh, don't tell anybody else because I need you guys to stay here and watch me. And they kept saying correct during the entire promo, which is their new thing. He finished the promo by saying that he would be laughing all the way to the bank. I liked the beginning stuff with Drew and Orton. I think this went a little too long with The Miz. I think they could have cut this a bit short. Again, if it was a 2-hour show, I think this would have been a lot shorter, but they have to stretch it out. I just think it went on a bit too long. And DJW with the $2 super chat, thank you, DJ, says, do you think that Miz will have a successful cash-in? Probably not. But now, after the result of tonight, maybe. I still think it's unlikely. I would say the odds are against it. And TJS is way behind here, and he's going off topic as he does. So he doesn't care about being shamed, so go ahead and shame him. It will not matter. He says, why didn't Drew use the sword? I'm not going to talk about the sword right now. I will answer that question later. We had a recap of the 8 times that we've seen Lana get put through the table by Nia Jax. We had a 6-woman match. Asuka, Dana Brooke, and Mandy Rose versus Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Lana. Before the match, Lana was talking with Shayna and Nia, And basically, the gist of it was Nia did not want Lana interfering in them taking care of business. So Nia warned Lana to not tag in during the match. During the match, Shayna Baszler and Nia took out Mandy Rose from the equation. Shayna stomped the arm of Mandy using the steel steps as leverage, and Mandy was taken to the back. Later, we had Shayna put on the Kirifuda clutch on Asuka. However, Lana did what she was asked not to do. She tagged herself in. Nia was pissed off. She yelled at Lana to get out of the ring. But Lana did not do it, and then Lana ended up losing, submitting to the Asuka lock. Nia immediately started setting up the table, and we had Lana brought to the outside of the ring, thrown out by Shayna. Nia then said that, you know what? Lana showed courage. Nia shook Lana's hand, but then she was like, psych. She picked up Lana, and for the 9th time, we had Lana go through the announce table. We'll see what happens on Sunday. I have a bold prediction, and Jeff says, poor Lana suffering for the sins of Miro. Unless this is all part of a master plan, Jeff, but again, I'll talk about that when we do our predictions. And David, with a $2 super chat, thank you, David, says, do you think the tables will turn for Lana? They might. Maybe this is going to lead to something and Lana's going to get some huge push out of nowhere, but I don't know. I will give my bold prediction, though, when we do the predictions video. DJW with a $5 super chat. Well, Uthman just basically spoiled what I was going to say. I have this strange feeling that Lana is going to be the sole survivor on Sunday. Like, I think it's crazy, but I just sense it. And maybe I hope I'm wrong, because I think it's not really clever booking. I think you should have Bianca Belair be a sole survivor if you're going to have one, or protect Nia and Shayna. But yeah, I'm having this strange feeling that Lana is going to be the sole survivor of the match. But I'm going to sleep on it and think about it a little bit more before I give my final prediction. DJW with a $5 super chat. Thank you, DJ. Says, how are we supposed to suspend disbelief when the announce table gets destroyed yet again? Then the announce table is perfectly set up later in the night. You know, DJ, it's funny you mentioned this, because I was thinking about this during the main event with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. I'm like, wow, they had a new announce table ready to go to replace the other one. I mean, back in the day, they would have 2 of them, but now, during the pandemic era, we only have the one announce table there, and they must have like a whole bunch backstage on standby ready to go. I mean, it is WWE after all, and you know people get put through tables. We had AJ Styles backstage with his Survivor Series team, and Sheamus was once again yelling at AJ, saying AJ is not the team captain, and they started talking about the match with Retribution later on. AJ gave them some red USA Network t-shirts, which I guess is a nice change from the regular Raw versus Smackdown with everybody wearing Raw shirts. And the end of this segment, Styles found out that his bodyguard actually does speak English. Okay then. This was supposed to be funny, but I have to be honest with you guys, I did not laugh. We had the Firefly Funhouse segment, and Bray Wyatt talked about wanting to teach The Miz a lesson in manners. And if Miz doesn't pay attention and learn a lesson, he's going to find out the bad side of Bray Wyatt, and he does not want that. And then we had the puppets assisting Bray with his agility and his spelling and throwing darts. Rambling Rabbit got a dart thrown right into his heart, and Bray had to spell the word jackass, and he spelled it M-I-Z. Kind of a cute segment here. I like the Rambling Rabbit death, getting the dart through the heart. That was cute. Backstage, we had Reckoning, a.k.a. Mia Yim, beating the crap out of Dana Brooke. And it was announced that Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose were officially out of Survivor Series, removed from the match. We'll talk about that more here in a few minutes. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho. He says, is The Miz dropping Money in the Bank to The Fiend? You know, that would be interesting. We've never seen Money in the Bank get passed over twice in WWE history. That would be a first. But I think Miz will probably cash it in. Whether he's successful or not, I think the odds are against it. But I think he'll be the one to cash it in, win or lose. We had Hurt Business versus New Day. Before the match, MVP cut a promo hyping up Survivor Series. Shelton even got a few lines in. New Day interrupted, and Kofi said they sound like a bunch of jerks, so therefore he proposes that instead of the Hurt Business, they will now be known as the Jerk Business. Yeah. This was like something that Roman Reigns would be given as a line to say back in like 2015, like tater tots and suffering succotash. Like, who wrote this? Like, this is something that maybe a 10-year-old would find funny. Jerk Business, ha ha ha. I thought this was really cringy. Thankfully, the match was pretty awesome, so I was able to forget about it for the most part. Marquand 1976 with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, have you heard how long Mandy is out? ? Well, I believe it's just a storyline to get them out of the match. It was a worked injury. Why they were replaced? I mean, people can speculate on it. I don't know if it had anything to do with Mandy going to a boxing event over the weekend and not wearing a mask, but I suppose we'll know in a day or two if there's something else going on behind the scenes. So yeah, the match was awesome. Back and forth here, pretty lengthy match between the two teams. There was one moment that was a little scary where you had Cedric Alexander doing these dives, the suicide dives, and then it seemed like he was running out of steam by the third one, and I thought for a split second, he was hurt. Like, he came out and it was not pretty, and thankfully he appeared to be okay. Everything went on in the match as it appeared to be planned, and it continued to be back and forth here. Hurt Business got a few near falls. We even had Shelton busting out an Angle slam in tribute to his former mentor, Kurt Angle. And then Alexander hit a brain buster, but Xavier Woods broke up the pin at the last second. Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise to send Shelton off the apron. And then Kofi and Xavier did a new double team move called the Daybreak, which was basically Kofi holding Cedric, and Xavier did a stomp off the top. 1, 2, 3. New Day, still your tag team champions, and they will go on to face the Street Profits at Survivor Series as planned. Yes, the tip, the Trouble in Paradise, J-Spin. Marcus Meatcalf says Mandy was hurt during the match last week by Nia. Oh yeah, I forgot about that, and people were like, Nia Jax takes another victim. I totally forgot about that. You're right. That whole thing last week. So yeah, I wonder if that must have been it then. That must have been why they did this angle to get her out of the match. Because now that I think about it, she really did not do anything in the match. It was basically her being taken out within the first couple of minutes of it. But yeah, I forgot about that. So thanks for reminding me of that. DJW with a $5 super chat says, I wanted a title change, but I guess it makes sense since New Day and Street Profits have been exchanging, doing each other's gimmicks, maybe after Survivor Series? I was not expecting a title change, even though you would have heels versus faces in that scenario. But yeah, you're right. They were doing the the mockery of each other's gimmicks, and that's what's been built up the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm not really surprised we got no change with that. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Psycho. He says, Shelton Benjamin should have retired Kurt Angle. Well, the thing is, I don't feel WWE was ever going to really push Shelton in a serious role. Like, I think that there were numerous guys who could have had do that. If you were going to go with somebody on the roster right now, like maybe Chad Gable a few years ago before he became Shorty G, he could have benefited from it. Or any of the NXT guys that were coming up could have been Kurt Angle to get the rub. But yeah, I mean, pretty much anybody I think would have been a better choice than King Corbin, in my opinion. We had Sheamus backstage with Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus had this chest. Drew opened the chest. There was a kilt, and then Sheamus presented a sword to Drew McIntyre. I thought this was pretty cool. And again, slow burn. I'm thinking we're going to see Sheamus versus Drew pretty soon. And this was a nice little further build for that. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, when was the last time we've seen somebody in WWE presented with a sword? It hasn't happened to my knowledge. And I've watched a lot of wrestling. Maybe Berserker had a sword back in the day, but this was pretty cool. I did like this segment. We had Ali cut a promo with Retribution and talked about how the Raw team represents everything they hate. They're arrogant, selfish, spineless cowards, yada, yada, yada. And Reckoning said they're one step ahead of her enemies. She showed that earlier by taking out Dana Brooke. We had this match, Retribution versus the members of Team Raw. And basically, the storyline here was that Team Raw could not get along. Sheamus and Strowman, they were having issues and went back and forth here for a while. But again, the dissension led to their downfall. Strowman did his Strowman Express, and then Sheamus hit a bro kick to Slapjack, but then Sheamus tagged himself in. And then Strowman tagged himself in. Strowman went for a power slam, but Sheamus stopped it. Riddle got in the ring. Strowman shoved Riddle, and then Riddle got rolled up by Ali, and Retribution picked up the win. I mean, this match did not elevate Retribution. I mean, they won by a fluke here because the other team could not get along. I mean, the storyline was just to further this idea that the Raw guys cannot get along. And I do have my opinion on what's going to happen in this Survivor Series match, but again, I'll save that for the predictions. And Charles Coleman with a $3 super chat says, what's the end game to the Retribution crap? I don't think there is one. I think the sooner you end this, the better. Like, put us out of our misery, or at least, I mean, I think it's too late, but when Ali was revealed as the leader, they should have dropped the masks and the silliness of it and just let those guys be supporters of Ali, people that have sympathized with him and wanted to help him in WWE, and all of them together trying to get noticed in the company. But what's done is done, and I just don't care anymore. So yeah, the sooner they end it, the better. We had Nikki Cross interviewed backstage. She said she's not giving up on Alexa Bliss. Alexa is her friend, and she will do whatever it takes to get her away from the Fiend, no matter what. And then backstage, there were a bunch of wanted flyers with Jeff Hardy, his picture being arrested, and Elias laid out from the car accident. Jeff Hardy was very upset about this. He ripped up the flyers. He confronted Elias backstage. Elias said he's just looking for justice to be served. Jeff shoved Elias into the corner, said that he's told him enough times it wasn't him, and if Elias accuses him again, then Jeff said he'll be guilty of things far worse than what he's being accused of, wrongfully accused of by Elias. Mr. Anderson says tired of this Jeff Hardy and Elias feud. It's only been going on for a couple weeks, so that's bad if you're already tired of it. Be prepared for another 2 or 3 months of it, by the way. We had The Miz versus Bray Wyatt. Miz cut a promo with Morrison before the match. He wanted to make peace with Bray Wyatt. He brought up their history when Bray Wyatt was trying to mess with Miz's daughter. But he said, it's water under the bridge. Let's have a peaceful solution and work together. Alexa came out with her remix of her song, her darker remix, and she said he said no. Nikki Cross came to the stage and tried to talk some sense into Alexa. Alexa responded by slapping her. The two of them brawled. Adam Pearce and Pat Buck tried to break them up. Bray then finally arrived, Mr. Rogers Bray. He told Miz he would forgive him, offered a handshake. Miz kicked the hand away, and the two of them had their match. Morrison kept interfering. He took a shot at Wyatt, which just angered Wyatt. And then Morrison grabbed Wyatt's leg. At this point, Alexa ran and she leaped off of the steel steps and tackled Morrison, sending both of them over the barricade. Maybe my favorite part of Raw. I love the visual of that, of Morrison being sent over the barricade by Alexa. Alexa has been great. I love this character change. One of the highlights of Raw every week. So I'm glad she got to be highlighted this week and she got more TV time. Last week it felt like she was barely on. So I'm glad this week she got to do more. And I agree, Kev, she's great in this role. Bray hit Sister Abigail, picked up the win over Miz. Again, going back to earlier, this was one of those matches, no surprise here. I mean, fairly obvious, but I liked the stuff with Alexa. And then Alexa, after the match, was walking across the barricade. Cool stuff here. I liked it. Backstage, Adam Pearce announced that Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce would be replacing Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose in the women's Survivor Series elimination match. And then later on, Lacey and Peyton confronted Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Lacey was more confrontational. Peyton was trying to talk strategy, but Nia was not having any of it. We had another Angel Garza promo, talked about how all the women in the world are like roses in a garden, and he is the thorn that protects all the women in the world. Again, I would prefer these segments if they were actually proper vignettes, like him like dating women in restaurants, although, you know, it's COVID-19, so I guess you can't do that. I mean, you could, but what kind of message would that send? But still, I would much prefer if these were done in classic 80s, 90s vignette style, like with DiBiase or Mr. Perfect, you know, that sort of thing. If you're going to repackage Angel Garza. It just feels like him standing in a back room doing these promos every week. It's just not doing much for me. And then we had our main event of the evening. And this was with about 40 minutes to go left of Raw. So they were putting a lot of TV time into this. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat says, why isn't Angel Garza wrestling right now? Well, I think they're just trying to repackage him, and they probably have no creative direction for him right now. So they're like, well, let's do these videos for a while until we have a proper storyline for him, and then we'll introduce him back into TV as a regular character. So we had our main event, which they were hyping up. A main event worthy of WrestleMania. Drew had his big entrance with the stuff Sheamus gave him. He was wearing the kilt. He had his sword, fire pyro, more pyro when he got into the ring. Like a WrestleMania entrance here for Drew McIntyre. Mark Henry was there watching. Randy Orton made his entrance, and we had about a half hour left of the show. So we were going to get a pretty lengthy match here unless there were some kind of shenanigans. And I was thinking, you know what? They put so much time hyping up this match, building it up. They even had a video package earlier in the show to set up the match. I'm like, this has got to be straight. Like they cannot do some kind of screw job finish. They got to have a clean winner here, because it's just going to turn fans off if you put all this into hyping up the match and then you screw the fans over that got invested. It's not good for business. So I was really thinking at this point, somebody's going over clean. And like I said last week, with all that investment in Randy Orton, or excuse me, not Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, I was feeling McIntyre would be winning the title here. So let's talk about it. Randy Orton tried to leave right off the bat, and Adam Pearce came out, told Orton that would not be happening. It was going to be a no DQ, no count out match. There must be a winner. Excuse me. Midnight Black reacts with a $2 super chat. No comment though. Thank you. I do appreciate the super chat. We had Orton taking advantage of the situation. He started using a steel chair. He used the steel steps on McIntyre. He slammed McIntyre on the table outside, which, as I mentioned earlier, replaced the one that Lana went through. But then McIntyre turned the table. He actually did not literally turn the table, but figuratively turned the table on Randy Orton. He slammed Orton onto the table twice. Second time he did it, Orton yelled out, "God damn it," and it was not censored. That was pretty funny. And he went for a Claymore, but he missed and landed on the table. Orton then set up a regular table near the apron, superplexed McIntyre back into the ring. We had the piped in "This is awesome" chant. McIntyre made a comeback, hit a future shock DDT. Orton then rolled out onto the apron, stood up, and then McIntyre knocked Orton off the apron through a table. Of course, you guys know I mention this all the time. Whoever sets up the table ends up going through it almost every time, like 9 times out of 10. Orton was bleeding. His back was bleeding at this point. He countered another Claymore attempt. I think this was the third one at this point. There was one at the beginning of the match, and Orton escaped, and that's when he tried to leave the match with his championship, and Adam Pearce stopped him. We had Drew McIntyre and Orton on the floor again. Orton hit the DDT, the draping DDT on the floor, got him back in the ring, hit another DDT, and then went for the RKO, but Drew countered. Finally, on the 4th attempt, he got the Claymore and scored the 1-2-3 victory to become the new WWE Champion for a second time. Great main event here. This was maybe the best Raw match of the year. I mean, last week we had an awesome match with Ali and Ricochet. This was a pay-per-view quality main event, and I believe it was the first WWE title change on Raw since Roman Reigns beat Sheamus in December of 2015. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know in 2016 the Universal title became the Raw title, and then it was just last year that it was switched back over. So I'm pretty sure this was the first WWE title change on Raw in quite some time. The Game is on 100 with a $5 super chat. Says, "What a waste of Orton's title win at Hell in a Cell. My hunch is a Miz cash in on Reigns and McIntyre match, so both do not lose, so Miz takes the pinfall loss." I'm still thinking we're going to get a 3-way with The Fiend added to the mix, do a triple threat with those guys. Now, people have been asking why the title change. I mean, it could be a ratings ploy. Maybe WWE's changing plans with Edge for WrestleMania, because there was a report that maybe WWE might consider doing The Fiend versus Edge for WrestleMania instead, and who knows? Or maybe it's just a way for Randy Orton to get closer to the record. You know, he's a 14-time champion, and now he's ever so close to the 16-time record that John Cena and Ric Flair have. Maybe it'll be Randy Orton that breaks the record when it's all said and done. All this time we've been thinking Cena, maybe it's going to be Randy Orton that does it. DJW with a $5 super chat says, with Drew's appearance on SmackDown, made this predictable, but I am now very intrigued in this match. Early prediction, Aaron, I hope Drew gets his ass kicked. Well, as far as Survivor Series goes, I have my prediction. I'm not going to give it now because you guys got to tune in for that. Got to keep you guys invested. The predictions video Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. That's the live stream if you guys want to watch it live. Otherwise, it'll be on demand after that. Letter grade for the show, I mean, really solid Raw. The main event delivered, and it took up a pretty decent chunk of the show. Tag match was really good. I mean, best Raw in a while. One of the best of the Thunderdome period. So for a 3-hour show, it was solid. I'm going to give it, I'm torn. I'm like B plus or B, but I'm going to be nice and give it a B plus because they did a clean finish and, they lived up to the hype with the main event. DJW, thank you for that. And let's see what you guys thought here. B plus from Roy W. Tyson with a B. Mike B with a B minus. Amanda with a D. Wow. She must be a big Randy Orton fan. Lars with a B plus. Mohammed with a B. Ace and his familiar Vlogs A minus. Michael Wayne B. Bruce Marvel with a B. Game is on 100 with a B minus. And Luis Ortiz with a C. Matt Helms with a B. And Jeff Meacham, my good buddy Jeff Meacham, says, thank you all for continuing to support No DQ and the Jeff Meacham Network. Both channels have a ton of content going live or premiering this week, so stay tuned. Absolutely. Make sure you guys follow Jeff on his channel, Jeff Meacham Network. Just search for it on YouTube. You'll find it. And follow Jeff at _Jeff Meacham on social media. He'll tweet it out to you whenever new content is available. And that's all I got for now. A lot of content coming up this week. We might have the No DQ review on Thursday. Not a guarantee, so don't quote me on that, but we're hoping to have it. JeffMeachamNetwork.com. There you go. There's a website for it. Thank you, Jeff. Have a great night, guys. Stay positive. Be safe. And I will see you guys next time.